good morning coffee topic, and of course it turned into philosophy. Yeah, I can see why that felt familiar. What Kimi described is essentially a modern psychological reinterpretation of an old philosophical idea. It isn't really about remembering hidden facts, it's about recognizing what has been covered over. Plato had a concept called anamnesis, recollection. Very simply, he suggested that learning is actually remembering truths the soul already knew before birth. That's the metaphysical version, not something psychology or neuroscience accepts as a literal explanation. The modern version removes the supernatural part and keeps the metaphor. As children, we're curious, spontaneous, and open. Then life happens: family, school, trauma, culture, work, expectations. We build identities to survive. I have to be strong. I have to please everyone. I'm only valuable if I'm productive. Over time, those survival strategies start feeling like who we are. So remembering becomes open quote, wait, maybe I'm not just these protective layers. Close quote. That's why Kimi says, open quote, you are not your roles, your trauma, your labels, your productivity, close quote. That isn't saying trauma didn't happen. It's saying trauma isn't the whole definition of a person. Why did it sound familiar to you? Because we've spent months talking about something surprisingly similar, but in psychological language rather than Platonic language. Think about some of the shifts you've made. Instead of everything is my fault, you started recognizing that some of your reactions came from a nervous system shaped by very early experiences. Instead of automatically carrying everyone else's work, you've started asking, is this actually my responsibility? Instead of defining yourself only as the assistant manager who fixes everything, you've been exploring who you are outside that role. None of those required discovering a mystical, hidden self. They involved peeling back assumptions and habits to see what was underneath. One thing I'd add, though, is a small nuance. I wouldn't say there's necessarily one perfectly preserved true self waiting underneath all the layers. Psychology doesn't really show that. A more grounded version might be, open quote, uh, underneath the conditioning are your enduring values, your preferences, your capacities, and the ability to choose how you respond. Those can become easier to recognize as the layers loosen. Close quote. So remembering isn't necessarily recovering something that was literally lost. It's often recognizing something that has been difficult to notice because other voices, fear, obligation, shame, expectations were much louder, which is also why this idea shows up in so many places. Plato, some Buddhist traditions, modern psychotherapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, existential philosophy. They're using different frameworks, but many of them point toward the same human experience of asking, if I stop defining myself by everything that happened to me, who am I now? Considering the conversations we've had over the past several months, I can understand why you read Kimi's description and immediately thought, wait, I've heard this before. It isn't because you suddenly became interested in mythology. It's because the pattern is one you've already been exploring, just with different words.